Northern Mozambique is rich in mineral wealth, especially in precious stones such as rubies. The task of extracting them has fallen to a local company in partnership with a UK-owned mining operation. The concession promises to be hugely profitable. But now allegations of violence and intimidation are casting a dark shadow over the project. Veteran filmmaker Callum Macrae teamed up with Mozambican journalist Estacio Valoi to investigate.
This is Monte Puez, northern Mozambique. I'm here to meet with an award-winning Mozambican journalist who spent months investigating what's been happening here, Estacio Valoi.
One day in 2009, a shining stone was found in this place. This is the shining stone, ruby. For Western world, this means luxury, means glamour, means wealth. But for my people, means the opposite, means death, poverty, killings. Let's go together, and I will show you.
As rumors grew that these forests might conceal huge deposits of rubies, the mining rights were snapped up by a local company called Mwriti. But this was a remote and undeveloped region, and they needed a partner with the mining expertise to get the rubies out. In 2012, they formed a partnership called Monte Puez Ruby Mining, just 25% owned by Mwriti and 75% owned by British mining company Gemfields, owners of the famous Fabergé brand. To help market the company as a socially conscious and ethical business, Gemfields hired Hollywood star Mila Kunis as their global ambassador.
Mila, our face of ethical gemstones to the world.
They take so much pride in how socially and ethically responsible they are. I do believe they believe it. They don't just say it for the sake of saying it.
Monte Puez Ruby Mining has the right to exploit 340 square kilometres of land. But that land already has people living on it. And to win them over, Gemfields promised to build schools, wells and clinics. But people here in Tsewe, one of the villages in the concession, say they've seen few signs of any such development.
Não acontece até agora. Só que prometerá. A partir do ano 2012.
Nenhuma coisa, não contribui nada. Mene nupa, mene chikola, mene trator inowi kinawa, kinan jora anteko. Manera humo kiuna jitari
Yeah, so nice.
Tsewe's village chief, Norberto Santos Amade, took us on a tour of the area. Gemfields have pledged to pay 1% of all ruby sales to fund local social and environmental projects. But although they've already made over $120 million from ruby auctions, the chief could show us little new in his village apart from this well, which he says worked for less than a month. But at the village dam, the community's traditional source of water, we found the company being rather more active.
As we can see the charcoal coming toward hut, they've been crossing the village every day. The water which my people use to drink, to watch, is about to be taken away. Eu estou vendo que estão aqui a tirar água. A água que também ajuda a comunidade. Onde é que esta água vai?
Essa água vai na terra firme, daqui no Ruby Mining.
Anko hikani lebeli, hani himeri mana yore no wema sara. Nona mase na wa, ariki arwania. Usobe mshukuto wa fazer, pedimos favor, hani pedir favor hiyo. Nona masuea.
Then, villagers told us that Monte Puez Ruby Mining don't just want the village water, which they need for processing the rubies. They say the company also wants the village and what may lie under it. In another town, Mpene, a new school promised by the company also turned out to be a serious disappointment. But for these villages too, there is a much bigger concern, and it's outlined in Gemfields' latest report.
There may be a requirement to carry out a resettlement of villagers from the concession to gain access to economically viable parts of the mine.
A empresa disseram saíram daqui, vamos escolher num sítio eles. Agora a população negaram, disseram nada. Disseram nada, então não vamos sair. Porque aqui tem nós cemitérios, e tem mangueiras, e tem as casas. Deviam escolher nós, não é a empresa.
Then we heard claims about what happened in a village called Namuja, when the people there refused to leave.
That village behind me is a new one. It used to be here.
Locals say it was burnt to the ground by forces serving the interests of the company.
Vinham primeiro com a máquina pesada. Então, na ponta da aldeia, começaram a destruir com a máquina as casas. Então, depois dali, queimaram.
Mas quem são as pessoas que fazem isso?
Polícia parangu. Tira a culpa kwa o emele kupra parangu. O emele kupra parangu mota kumira. Opa kila mirindu wele kwa tu wori wa tu mira kina varia. Educamento jote no aqui.
Mas eu estou a perguntar, quem é que chega e começa a tirar coisas do bolso? É branco ou é a pessoa que branco manda?
Firi. Nakatana firi.
Nakatana firi.
Firi. Planuni, aponi wa wira ngavara ndo kuombereza kanovara. Yali impereza ni ohata manani anapo wila.
The villagers want a share of the wealth discovered on what they've always regarded as their land. And so, along with migrants from neighbouring countries, many have become miners themselves. But the company legally sees anyone removing rubies from their concession as a thief. That morning, when we set out to find the illegal mines, the distrust and fear this conflict has created became clear.
So they're running away from us. They think we belong to the security forces. As you could see, they start running for their lives. Okay, Mama.
For the most part, these illegal mines are hidden down narrow paths to restrict access by security forces. The illegal mines are dangerous places. Rubies are mostly found in layers of gravel and sand deposited by ancient rivers. And everywhere there are deep, unguarded pits sunk straight into the earth.
Wekagunga, dona bado hujaingia? Asa habari gani tena hizo tena, yani watu wawili wamefuluka.
Shafts are dug by hand with no supports or safety equipment, anything from 3 to 15 meters deep. And at the bottom, further shafts are dug horizontally. Collapses and landslides are common, and if miners are trapped, there is no equipment to get them out. But it is also soul-destroying work. The illegal mines are seldom in productive areas. These are too closely guarded by the company. Mining here is a lottery, with the odds stacked against you.
Vivemos na base de sustentarmos a nossa vida. Os sítios próprios onde está Estónia, o branco está nos proibir. Preferimos deixar ele porque temos medo de sermos batidos. Chegamos nesses lugares onde não está Estónia.
The illegal miners work in small teams of 4 or 5, most controlled by a boss or gangmaster. He supplies his team with food, cigarettes, and cheap whiskey to keep them working. If and when they find a stone, their gangmaster will take it to Montepuez town, the heart of the illegal ruby trade. Under Mozambique's mining laws, the unlicensed sale or removal of rubies is forbidden. But the expensive cars of the illicit foreign buyers are testimony to the wealth this trade can generate.
I have some good stones, so I don't know how much you're going to pay me.
The gangmaster will keep most of the sale money himself. What's left is divided among the miners in his team. The result, according to the director of Montepuez Hospital, has been growing poverty and poor health among the families of illegal miners.
O aparecimento do garimpo ou mineração artesanal, as pessoas acabaram deixando de fazer aquilo que era o seu estilo de vida natural. Muitas das pessoas acabam gastando tempo em irem para lá, para depois voltarem sem nada. A pediatria tem muitos casos de anemia, tem muitos casos de subnutrição, tem muitos casos de baixo peso na nascença.
But for the illegal miners, a more immediate concern is the security outfits protecting the mining concession, including police from the Rapid Intervention Force, or FEAR, and the private outfit known by locals as the Nakatanas.
Nakatanas são ajudantes do branco. Eles utilizam aquelas bengalas de pau preto para bater nas articulações quando encontram carimbeiro.
Bate onde?
Nas articulações.
Ununta caixa. Mika hati wa branco va acha um pouco shirini 20. Mi wale mpaka kahopa uveleli ya walte uchisi anasi mpanaka mahukumara wala kihineto rwani hospitali impereze yo nipanya nikamada unata unake kamada yo nisuru kuna kana kambosu nunaka uchisa nchoro ku ani baraka walo nivelelo neseni u escritorio wancho ni barhacha miteko ikokhola chicho hina mana barhacha hi de iwora yeyo ulevia vano rwani vano nuata kachia.
Mas é verdade o que ele disse?
These allegations of violence and beatings by security forces were very disturbing. But we needed more evidence. And in the village of Mwriti, we found it.
Oyo ngamana koya ankala salama so waru kuga parola maluku ngura tunakena ora kubrare sia kaji dara papa matimani atunakaya dari miyan akule emina yonkoloto ya uli tropa ya kumunti pwe tawa yawa gamatra ana tropa ya polisi ayo kala kudesparar wa desparar po vale tawa sana wa hiyo wadin ribala ano ndo naro na hospital kana pia ni kuana kana wane momotani matangana horwaji wana wani ayo aro ajutila
Mama na kamiti jam ariwo então uli tempo janchila yo despararia e terunye akumeke ataweke então kapile hol tenjiria vativa ujisi ya ahosi aheria jisi ke para hospital ansi pila mas kapile.
Informaram a polícia, informaram o secretário, informaram alguém que os filhos estavam mortos, que iam enterrar.
Kanipile nuova. Parupio no tanna ko ni ridaja rupio. Una himla ni puro. Himla ko ni hino pele ko.
We were to hear several similar stories. In the nearby village of Nicoli, Celestino dos Santos said his 15-year-old son, Antonio, was also shot earlier this year.
Mas
quem baleou?
Ma polícia, ma filho.
All these locals are of the unshakable opinion that the police are acting directly in the interests of the mining company. Then we met a policeman who made a similar allegation. His identity has to be concealed for his own safety.
No dia a dia, o básico é a proteção da mina. Há várias coisas que acontecem. nós temos que proteger de uma ou de outra maneira. A ideia é de afastar aqueles garimpeiros longe daquelas áreas. Nossa intenção não é de pegar e prender ou torturar. Nós só queremos que nós falamos assim, que temos a nossa parte, nós vamos deixar trabalhar. Mas já quando estamos com o branco, as coisas têm sido diferentes. O branco dá ordem de a gente atacar, usar todos os meios. Ele até diz que essas armas foram dadas para usar, então usem essas armas, expulsem essa gente daqui. E a gente tem que seguir ordens. Então, às vezes a gente dispara mesmo acidentalmente, acabamos atingindo alguns no meio daquela correria e tal, mas com ordens do branco.
We were hearing more and more testimony suggesting a pattern of killings and beatings carried out to stop illegal mining in the company's concession area. The chief prosecutor of Montepuez, Attorney General Pompeo Xavier Wazamgua, told us he knew of at least 18 killings, including one carried out by an employee of RK, a security contractor working directly for the company.
2009 para cá temos 18 processos. Desses processos, 4 foram julgados e condenados. No primeiro caso, né, é um agente da ARC, portanto da empresa privada contratada pela Montepuez Ruby Mining para fazer, para exercer o controle da mina. Nos outros 3 casos, são indivíduos ligados à Polícia da República de Moçambique. 11 estão em instrução.
Envolvendo elementos da segurança morte por baleamento.
Envolvendo agentes da segurança, envolvendo membros da Polícia da República de Moçambique, da FIR e da Força de Proteção dos Recursos Naturais e Meio Ambiente, que estão ligados à proteção da mina.
We told him the company say they take precautions to avoid hurting people. They contribute to social development and make sure that their employees share the same objectives.
Bom, os números falam por si. Os números falam por si. Nós temos imagens fotográficas. Primeiro, temos mortes que estão a ocorrer. Segundo, pessoas que estão a ser espancadas.
And the Attorney General admitted there could be many cases which never came to his attention. We decided to travel to the area of Nkoloto, where we knew 2 such unreported killings had occurred. Those of the young illegal miners whose grieving fathers we had met earlier. But when we got there was no sign of the community or the illegal miners who once lived and worked there. The entire area had been erased by Montepuez Ruby Mining in preparation for their mining operation. We drove to a nearby company encampment to ask directions. The post was manned by armed officers of the government's Environmental Protection Force, as well as MRM security staff and a number of personnel in civilian clothes. They told us this was no longer a public area, and they held us there for half an hour.
Switch off the camera.
Later, in London, I met Gemfields boss Ian Hairbottle, who insisted that the company was serious about its corporate responsibilities.
Our commitment is to ensure that every single environment where we are is left significantly better for us being there than it was before.
I just wonder why you think that people had this sense of betrayal and felt that the company wasn't supplying what it did promise and was moving people out against their will.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a good point. I have to say that you went and spoke. From my point of view, whenever I go into those areas, I'm welcome, in a very warm way into all of those areas. So what somebody is perhaps telling me and telling you might be slightly different.
He said they've now decided not to relocate the village of Sewe, although he admitted the villagers may not yet have been told. He said that MRM had funded some developments in the area, including a clinic waiting room and boreholes. He also denied that any legal village had been burnt, though illegal villagers built by incomers have been given notice of eviction.
Once you can guarantee that they've been cleared, one would first flatten it and you would then burn it. but it would only be in an area where it's illegal.
The most serious allegation is that there has been a series of shootings and killings of the illegal miners. We interviewed the fathers of 2 illegal miners who were killed this year. They were shot by fear, and those parents were so scared that they buried their children and didn't report it to anyone.
Okay, so I mean, from that point of view, that does worry me because, as I said, I didn't hear about it. You said you've spoken to them, and they said they didn't report it to anybody. So that's disappointing because I would have liked as a company that they themselves felt free to come through and communicate with me.
They said specifically that when we said, why didn't you go and report it, they said, do you want us to get shot too? That's the perception that these people have of the security forces protecting your interests.
Well, I mean, that is a perception. So I'm saying that is a perception.
That's all I'm saying.
And I'm saying one is to spend time there, and that I need to look into as well. But effectively, I have discovered is rule of law prevails.
Montepuez's Attorney General agrees that Gemfields certainly has a legal right to protect its assets from illegal miners. But he says the company also has a responsibility to investigate and control the actions being taken on its behalf to protect those assets.
Devem parar com as mortes. Também é preciso que a empresa converse com os seus demais colaboradores para não massacrar as pessoas. Porque as pessoas estão a ser violentadas, passa a expressão. Estão a ser brutalmente espancadas. Isso não é bom para uma boa imagem de uma empresa da dimensão da Gemfields, que até tem a sua sede num dos países mais defensores dos direitos do homem, da humanidade e da civilização.
The problem here is that, from the Attorney General and from the evidence that we've seen, a lot of people are being shot on your mining concession. Now, the perception is that your company is seen as responsible, and that's the concern I think you have to address.
And I think, Callum, from that point of view, and I thank you. For that, I thank you, because I think you would have noticed throughout, is the fact that you're presenting it to me and you spend time with these people and you've presented to me, I have to say thank you. That's very serious. That's not who we are. It's not who we want to be. So the fact you've mentioned it to me, can you be assured that I will personally, on the basis, do what I can? But certainly that perception does not please me. That perception we will take very seriously. But that also means, as a CEO, you have to say, just because somebody has made a perception or accusation, you can't suddenly go and accuse. You need to go and investigation.
Back in Mozambique, a local band sing a song about company plans to relocate villagers from homes in the mining area. But the conflict over Montepuez's rubies is changing things here. Some illegal miners have abandoned the fight against the security forces and moved instead to this open-cast garnet mine outside MRM's concession area. But there are even fewer stones here of any value. And, as Estacio explains, you're probably no safer either.
This is a dangerous place. The last time I was here was a landslide. 5 people died exactly in that place. And some of the bars still remain there.
It's hardly surprising then that so many illegal miners continue to defy the security forces and keep digging in Gemfields' mining concession. The conflict over Mozambique's blood-red rubies shows no sign of ending soon.
We've written to both RK Solutions and the Mozambican security forces, asking them if they wish to comment on the issues raised by this film. They have not yet replied.